again, MMA True Believers. I am Jason Burgess for Sherdog.com, and this is a very special occasion. I am joined by a fighter many consider to be one of the greatest fighters to ever grace an MMA cage. He set records and solidified a legendary status as a UFC flyweight champion in the UFC. He is now on a new journey in his new legendary career as part of the One Championship Flyweight Grand Prix tournament in the semifinals at Dawn of Heroes on Friday night. He's the mighty one. He is Demetrious Johnson. Demetrious, thank you so much for giving me some time tonight. And you return just a few hours in a day or so away.
Yeah, man. Obviously, no problem. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I hear Manila on a brand new journey, a second round of the Flyweight Grand Prix, and I get ready for that.
Now, the first thing I have to jump into is because, and it was a talk on Twitter last night, the press conference face-offs last night with your opponent. Obviously, he's fairly big. Is there a part of you that starts to think about it a little bit like, damn, these one flyweights are pretty freaking big. This is not what I bargained for, because for so long you fought other men that were, for the most part, guys that were your size or maybe a little bit bigger. Or is this kind of part of the challenge of being a part of the, this one chapter in your life? You knew that these flyweights were going to be bigger than what, you fought at the UFC, and our fans are used to you fighting.
Yeah, I would say they're going to be bigger. I just think, last guy fought Yuya Wakamatsu and then Tatsumi Wada, those guys they're just taller, they're bigger. I mean, we all weighed exactly the same, but they're just bigger. Obviously, it's part of the gig. It's not my first time I fought a taller guy. I used to fight at 135 back in North America. So, I'm gonna go out there and just give it a roar, give it hell, and see what happens.
Now, I talked to a bunch of fighters. One, I talked to Martin Wynn last week. He talked about how, when they do weigh-ins and they do drug testing, the fighters and their camps and their opponents and their camps are in like the same room, so you kind of see it. When he weighs in and he makes weight, does that make it, easier for you and less awkward and stuff like that? Do you not kind of go, damn, how the hell is he making weight if he's in the hydration protocol? Does it help that you're supposed to be in the room when he's weighing in and all that stuff?
No, it doesn't bother me one bit at all. I mean, we're all athletes here. We all have the same goal, which is to be the best in the world. So there's no animosity whatsoever towards any of my opponents or towards me. So I think at the end of the day, I'm happy they make weight, but, I'm not too worried about he's 5'9", he's making 135.
Now let's talk about your opponent on August 2nd, Tatsumi Wada. He's a longtime veteran of the sport and Asian MMA scene, having fought deep for a long, long time. Look at it as his resume; he's got a ton of fights deep. For those who may be unfamiliar with his exploits during a really good 21-10-2-1 career, give me the Mighty Mouse breakdown on Mr. Wada. What are some specific areas he can pose a threat to you, and vice versa?
I mean, obviously, Tatsumi Wada, he's been in the game for a very long time, competing in, the best promotions in Japan. Obviously, he's longer, so he has a reach advantage. And, he's well-rounded, so he can, fight everywhere. With me, I obviously have the speed advantage, the height advantage as well, being low center of gravity, have gravity on my side. So I think it's me. Fight, and I think it's going to be, the fight can go anywhere.
Assuming you get past Wada and win this fight and get to the finals of the tournament, do you see a major test on the other side of the bracket in guys like Danny Kingad or Reese McLaren?
100%. Those guys are both great athletes. Danny Kingad is a phenomenal Filipino athlete, very explosive, very athletic. And, Reese McLaren, another tall athlete in this division. Great submissions and tough Ozzy.
Last time we talked about Matt Hume and not being your corner for your fights for one, and how you were getting used to that, and your teammates James and Tony would be running point in the corner instead. Do they, be considering this and everything, do they take on a greater role during your camps than they did when you were in your UFC run because of this? Maybe you need some kind of, different, you need to hear the voice in training than just in the fight, and are you feeling even greater confidence going into this second fight with them as your primary cornerman?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Matt's still, training me, and when he's training me, Tony are there, and they've done a great job at taking on that role, a fantastic job taking on that role, just because they signed up for the job. And so far it's been going good. We feel good, and we only got a couple of days, and it'll be the second time those guys have this opportunity to do this, and I'm sure they're going to do their best to not fail me.
Do they?
And at the end of the day, it's. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all up to me. All I have to do go out there is compete. And what Matt says, Matt tells him like, hey, just remind him the key things to don't overextend, don't get tall. All the skill sets there. I have all the skill sets to beat anybody in the world. It's just reminding me, that I can do it and don't make mistakes.
I mean, because, you mentioned when I talked to you that friends of yours, not just teammates, they've been around for a long time. Dude, have you ever had conversations? Do they feel a pressure themselves? I'm not sure how many people they do corner work for like this. They're taking on the corner work for Demetrious Johnson. This is, taking on after Matt Hume, who both you guys together have had so much success, and there's so much pressure, there's so much emphasis looked at you in your fight. Have you ever talked to them like, do they feel the pressure of this kind of position? Because it's a big role to have, to be the cornerman for a legendary fighter.
No, I don't ask them if they feel pressure. And obviously they're not going to be able to ever feel Matt Hume's shoes, because Matt Hume just is asking to see in the future when I'm fighting. So with that being said, they're doing the best of their ability, and it's been fantastic. Like I said, they're giving me cues I need to do when I'm fighting. But those cues never be like how Matt Hume was. So we're doing the best of our ability to make, try to fill that void that Matt, we're trying to fill that void that Matt's not there. And we'll see how Saturday night goes.
Crosspromotion has been a story this year with Bellator and Ryzen. I mean, other companies like Combate Americas and KSW seem open to it. One name that stands out to me as a possible cross-promotion for if one championship so, wanted to do something like that would be somebody like Kyoji Horiguchi. Yes, you beat him, but he seems like an improved fighter since that fight 4 years ago at UFC 186. Would a rematch with the guy who's the current Ryzen and Bellator bantamweight champion interest you, and do you feel he is a much different fighter than the one you faced back then?
I mean, obviously he's a different fighter than we faced back then 4 years ago. And only thing that interests me before even trying to get that fight is I need to become a champion here first, right? So he's gone off and became a world champion in Bellator, also world champion in Ryzen, and let's say I became the world champion, one championship, and it's something that Chantry wanted to do and Ryzen wanted to do, then I wouldn't, I wouldn't be against it at all. I mean, I think Kyoji Horiguchi's done an amazing thing and been on an amazing run since he's left the UFC. And I think at the end of the day, when you look at one championship and you look at Ryzen, they're both in the same footprint. They're both in Asia. And so for me to see Ryzen and one try to do a co-promotional thing when they're obviously competitors, I don't foresee it happening. But who's to say that, Kyoji Horiguchi comes to one championship?
Right. I mean, since you mentioned Chantry, we talked about before in both conversations how much you enjoy working for him. He is a true mixed martial artist. Like, what, how close has your relationship been with him? I mean, and not even maybe just specifically that relationship, but in terms of your relationship with your previous boss, who, he seems like Dana White, he seems like he has favorites, and then some people he's so with. Do you feel a better working relationship with Chantry and one championship where, you can really talk to him and connect with him on a different level than maybe you have with previous employers in this game? Is there a better understanding between you two than stuff you've had in the past?
Yeah, I would say so. Me and Chantry spoke 2 days ago about one Esports that's going to be launching here in October in Tokyo. Mm-hmm. And we're also talking about the other one as well that's going to be launched. So we talked about that. And then we're also talking about training. He trains every single day, hitting pads with Muay Thai. And I was talking about how awesome it was to train and evolve MMA in Singapore, getting my body acclimated to the time zone here in Manila. So we talk a lot. And we share the same passion.
Yeah, and that's great that you brought up the esports thing, because I plan to ask about it, because I saw the announcement he made on Monday about that. Should we expect some, because I talked to you about that too, when you signed with them, the esports thing was a nice little extra icing on the cake to the whole thing. Should we maybe be expecting some news on your part in this esports division, since it is so close? Like, should we be on the lookout for maybe some news soon, or maybe close to October like you mentioned?
Yeah, obviously, we just announced the first date of the first one Esports, which will be October in Tokyo, Japan. We released a couple of the games, Dota 2, Tekken, Street Fighter 5. I believe they're still working on a couple of other games that have been announced. The hardest thing is getting the blessing from different promotions, not promotions, but different video game companies to allow us to have those games in our lineup in the One Esports. And what took, and not that you asked, what took so long, we were trying to iron out the infrastructure. When it comes to not One Esports, when it comes to esports gaming, you got to make sure infrastructure is good, because you got to give people a reason to tune in. You got to have the best gaming athletes to tune in. You can't be like, oh, we're gonna throw esports event. That's not how one championship do it. They want to make sure they do it. They want to make sure they do it right. And so we got all the infrastructure laid down. First events, Tokyo, Japan in October, and I'm excited to be a part of it. And I'm sure there's going to be more news to come. What athletes going to be competing, price pool, and all that stuff. It's just one step at a time.
Does it make this signing that much more interesting? Because I know you're a big gamer and stuff like that. This is just not something the UFC would have done. And honestly, it's something not any MMA promotions are doing, to jump, be this forward thinking to do something like this. That is a booming industry. Does it make you, like how does it feel to be a key part of this? You are going to probably be at the forefront of this because people know you, your name value, and you're a big gamer. To be at the forefront of something like this. Like, could you even have guessed this could have been happening maybe 2 years ago, that you'd kind of be blending the two of the passions of your life into one kind of fun thing?
No, not at all. I mean, obviously, when I found out the news that they're going to be jumping into, esports, I was like, okay, I got to be part of this. Gaming has been part of my life since I was a child. I've been gaming the longest I've been doing mixed martial arts. So the fact that, One Esports is about to launch, it's awesome. I can't wait for the first event. I'm sure they're going to blow it out of the park. And you can see, great content creation. I just did some content creation with Xian, the world champion of Evo last year, and some Street Fighter 5. So that's going to be fun to watch. That'll probably be on the One Super Series app. And I'm looking forward to the first event. I'm happy to be part of it.
Now, video games are big at events like ComicCon and E3. Would you, should we look for One Championship to be a part of something like those in the coming year, or maybe 2020, and you being, as a representative of them in some capacity for some big stuff like that?
I would never say never. Obviously, that's something more for the higher ups like Chantry, those guys, to figure out what they want to do, if they want to dip their toes into the Comic-Con or in that realm. Obviously, right now we have so much going on. They have so much going on in their plate, with one Warrior Series, one championship, one esports. They got a lot of stuff going on. The company is still growing. The company is still getting popular, and I
talked to Martin Nguyen. When I talked to him, he mentioned that he's a part of the one management agency they have, and how they help more so with non-fighting stuff and getting to commercials. And I joke with him, maybe he could be like James Bond or something like that. Are you a part of the one management agency at all?
Not that I know of. I haven't really sat down with one of the agencies and signed on with those guys. Obviously, they know my phone number. If there's any opportunity, I'm sure they'll pass it my way. And I think at the end of the day, with the one agency, it's more about, getting the athletes something to do after they're done with their career. Chantry's big on about, yes, you guys are competing, you guys are superstars now, but what's going to happen after you're done competing for one championship? I want to make sure you guys have a life afterwards. So building your brand, I want to focus on building your brand. That way you're done, you're a superhero in your old town. I'm here in Manila. I was at 7-Eleven, and Brandon Vera has a sponsorship with the chicken out here. And I'm like, with the fucking Brandon Vera, the chicken verifies the chicken out here. So, boom. I mean, he's still competing for one championship, and now he has a sponsorship. He's plastered all over here in Manila, and that's a good thing. So they're already building his brand. He's already doing movies out here as well. So they're building his brand, and that's what's important: the one championship and being part of the one agency.
Is there a little jealousy that Brandon Vera does have his own chicken out there?
No, I ain't happy. I ain't mad on Brandon Vera. Brandon Vera doing his thing. I'm a big fan of Brandon Vera.
In our previous conversation, when you first signed with one, getting to compete in Japan was a big deal. This time around, you will compete in the Philippines. Of the circuit of Asian nations that one frequents and goes to over there, aside from Japan and the Philippines, are there any other interesting places and locales you are intrigued to eventually compete in and be at?
Singapore. I think after this event, if I am successful here, I'll go back to Japan and compete. Then I'd love to compete in Singapore. So I wouldn't mind jumping back and forth from Japan, Singapore, and Manila, or just going from Japan to Singapore. When I competed in North America, I told the people, I was like, I just want to fight in Vegas. I don't care about seeing the world or anything like that. I'll see the world on my own time. But I want to get to the place where I feel the most comfortable to compete. Manila seems to be working out all right. Japan's good for me. I've been in Singapore. I think those three, if I can choose those three, that's what the ones I would choose.
I mean, speaking, you just mentioned you want to go back and fight in Japan. Is the October Century event back in Tokyo something realistic that you're looking at, and you've talked to them? Because one likes to set up fighters almost with a fight after, the one they haven't even fought yet. Is that something in mind possibly has been talked about?
Well, obviously, it's part of the tournament structure. So if I'm successful Friday, then the finals are in October. As long as I'm healthy and ready to go and no injuries, I'll be competing October 13th in Japan.
I always like to end conversations with fighters on what do the kind of things they like to do. We already know you do video games. I talk to people, they like cooking. Maybe they like, Martin Nguyen like to do motorcycles. People like to do interesting things. What's some things, personal passions for you? Obviously, you have a family, that's one. But aside from that, that's something that maybe fans would be like, holy shit, Mighty Mouse likes to do that? I did not expect that.
Yeah, I like to watch the stock market, man. I don't play stocks, but I invest in the stock market. And I'm always looking to see what companies doing well, understand why, and try to figure out why did this stock rise today? Why did this stock fall today? What is the guidance of this company? Why is this company going to be around in 10 years? That's something I got into about 2 years ago. I've been doing, and I every single morning I'm watching the stock channel to see what's going on in the company.